And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corps. Did who would Lantern Corps from Shadow Dice Gaming? We have the question of what is the Lantern Corps of Future Trunks? And Future Trunks, when I really broke it down, is interesting when you talk about lanterns. Now, when you look at someone like Goku or Vegeta, or you look at someone or Frieza or so, it's pretty obvious where they lie in like the trope of like one or two different colors, green or blue for Goku. Cells either a yellow or death or something like, things along those lines. But Trunks poses a very unique scenario because Trunks didn't start as future Trunks. He started just baby Trunks. And as we know, Kid Trunks is very different from his future counterpart. So let's get things out of the way right now. I'm going to talk about a few of the ones he doesn't qualify for because there's actually, I think, at least 6, no joke, 6 different Lantern Corps he could qualify for. So let's get future Trunks, some of these are out of the way right now. Gold is off the table. This is not a guy who's been happy his whole life, not even close. Nor is he going to be a white or a black. Those are colors that just don't work for him, and concepts don't work for him. He's also not a Lantern of Avarice. He's not a greedy guy, so that makes no sense. And he's not a Lantern of Fear. Trunks, except for like when he killed Zamasu, is not someone who scares anyone really, except Frieza. Frieza was one of the few people he actually scared. But that's not that. In that one moment, he could have been a Lantern of Fear. And let's get one of the obvious ones out of the way. Could he be a Green Lantern? Well, absolutely, he could be a Green Lantern. I don't think actually that might be his dominant core, but we'll go through all of them real quick. But keep in mind what Trunks' whole motivation. He's got to like kill the androids and all that. Well, honestly, Trunks throughout a huge portion of Dragon Ball Z and through Goku Black Saga, this man's angry. He's got a lot of rage going on there. There's a legitimate argument he can be a Red Lantern. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a righteous rage. It is. But it's a rage of revenge. Revenge on the androids. Revenge against Cell. Revenge on Goku Black. Which is the type of rage the Rage Lantern Corps look for. The Red Lanterns look for that desire to get revenge and justification and, justice for what they did or what's been done to them or what they deem has been done to them. So this is legitimately a scenario where the good guy could very much be a Lantern of Rage. But that rage is all. Weirdly enough, rage and love really are tied together because rage can come from love and love can come from rage. It really, and more so that it's usually more so rage comes from love. But it's to the point. It's like this is something that is very legitimately possible in most cases. And yeah, the reason he wants revenge is because he loved all his friends and family so much, and his world, and he loved his world, and it's been taken from him. So it 100% makes sense that he'd want to take vengeance from love. Now, do I think this is the main motivator? Ooh, see, that gets a little tougher. But we'll get to that. Also, I think it bears with repeating, he's kind of a Lantern of Hope. I mean, the fate of his world is placed in his hands, so the hope of the world gets placed in his hands. So there's that. But he's also in and out of hope. A little bit like he puts his hope in Goku and then his dad and himself. Hope is what I think he can qualify for, but if I'm going to be honest, it's probably the least likely just because of how much he kind of goes in between things. Or goes in between his emotions very much. Like he's become hopeless many times. So it's possible, but I think it's the weakest one. I also don't think he's a Lantern to compassion. He certainly has compassion. He could be, though, a Lantern to shame, if I'm going to be honest. This is just due to the fact he carries a lot of shame and ultraviolet, as that is the believed to be the main emotion that the ultraviolets go for is shame. But that is something that Trunks carries with him quite a bit. He couldn't beat the androids in his time. He feels shame for that. So couldn't help the Z-Fighters when they were being wiped out. He feels ashamed about that. So it's definitely something that he can qualify for in that sense. Definitely. But, believe it or not, folks, we got one more to talk about. I think, no joke, we have our first qualifier for the Lantern Corps of Sorrow, or Apathy, as it's also called, too. It's got two different, the Gray Lanterns of sorrow / apathy. Trunks has had a rough life. Future Trunks, anyway. He's I'm just centering this again. He's seen multiple people die in front of him. He comes from apocalyptic wasteland, basically. He watched his mentor get murdered. We saw what happened when he turned into Super Saiyan. Tears of their lives. Like this, and he still carries all of that with him. He tries to persevere beyond it, but he could qualify for this Lantern Corps. He has hit those points in his life where this would work. He's one of the few characters that I've gone through since the Grey Lanterns have been introduced that I think can work in this regard. Now, that being said, let's now talk about the least likely and most likely. As I said, Hope, I think, can work, but it's the least likely candidate. And I think followed directly behind that would probably be Love. This is just simply due to the fact that while love is a motivator, I think all of the other emotions kind of but outweigh the love. Like they're driving forward ahead of love. So while I do believe love does work, I also believe that love probably is the second weakest. Second weakest. Okay, now we're getting into the tricky category because Green, it's hard to not say Green. Like, he does overcome great fear. He does persevere. He has good willpower. Do I think it's the dominant trait? That's the problem. Because he also still carries that shame. He carries that shame with him all the time. But he seems to, again, he perseveres beyond that emotion. In fact, that's the problem for all these things that could be a qualifier for him. It seems to persevere beyond a lot of the negative emotions he has. So I don't think shame. I think shame goes next. Sorrow. I think sorrow is only good in the moment, or if he's constantly keeps getting watching his mom get killed by Goku Black. Sorrow only works momentarily, but he could be a Sorrow Lantern. So that leaves us with Will and Rage. Will and Rage. Ugh. This gets really tough. Because honestly, he's a good candidate for both of these. He really is. I will say, though, that because he can be calm. I mean, he's not like constantly raging, but that's not how the Rage Lantern works. He's still angry about what's going on there, but he's also come to peace with it. Like, he got stronger to fight the androids, and he killed them and Cell in his timeline. So a lot of that rage was he let go of, or he killed them. So because he's had moments in his history where he's been able to let go of the rage, I will edge out Green over it. So the boring answer again is Green, but Trunks is someone who, from an emotional standpoint, from an emotional perspective, that can qualify, or an emotional standpoint, that can qualify for a large candidacy of these. I don't think that sounds right. Large candidate of these? Large selection. Large selection of these. But this is just my opinion, as always. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know in the comments below. And can you feel a justification for some of the other ones? Fear, like I said, worked really only with Frieza and with Semi-Perfect Cell briefly. No, not even Semi-Perfect Cell. That was Vegeta. But with Frieza, really, and the androids in the future temporarily. Could see a justification for Compassion, or the Black, White, or a Gold Lantern. Definitely not Gold Lantern, but I mean, I'd be willing to hear your explanation. Maybe you think it can be a Gold Lantern. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.